Thanks everyone for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome to our latest edition of the gPanel Office Hours. If this is your first time, thanks for joining us. This is a monthly webinar series that's done on the second Tuesday of every month. We do the same agenda every month. We have discussions over any new features and updates to gPanel. We do a detailed workshop of today's subject, which is reporting. And then if you have any questions, we do a Q&A at the end with our presenter. So just a quick note, this link at the bottom will give you the option to opt into all of our gPanel webinars. So if you sign up for all the webinars, you will just get an email reminder a day or two before the webinar. All right, let's meet our presenters today. I'm Hailee Zapata. I'm the Alliance Marketing Manager here at Promevo, and the man of the hour is Mark Bakarian, our resident gPanel superstar, who is our system support engineer here at Promevo.
Oh, thanks, Haley.
Everyone knows you by now. They're like, we're buddies with Mark. We're great. But speaking of Promevo, so Promevo is a premier Google partner that sells, service, and builds Google products. We are 100% Google focused, and we specialize in Chrome OS, Google Workspace and Gemini, Google Cloud, and gPanel. If you're only working with us on Google Workspace and gPanel, you're just tipping your toe into all the solutions that we can provide and help you with. So what is gPanel? gPanel, if some of you are new members joining us today, is our own proprietary Google Workspace user management tool and platform. And what it does for you is it takes the functions of a Google admin console and it adds a deeper level of user control management and so much more, honestly. It enhances your user efficiency by administration and delegation and an onboarding and decommissioning process. It creates more visibility through customizable reporting, which we'll deep dive into today. It helps drive consistency within your brand and has an API integration and honestly just protects your company from security and risks and breaches through all the security controls. So if you're watching this and not a gPanel user and you want to sign up for a free trial, please reach out to us. We will give you a personal guided demo and walk you through what all gPanel can do for your company. So let's really get into it now. We do want to go over a small new addition to gPanel that I'm going to bring in Mark to talk to you about. Before I do that, I want to remind you guys that we do expand on new features. And if you need to refer back to previous webinars, they are available for viewing on demand at our website. It's www.promevo.com. We also have extensive release notes that are sent out. So please sign up for those if you want to be the first to know what is new with it. All right, Mark, I'm going to hand it over to you to discuss the new update and get into our workshop.
Thanks so much, Haley. Okay, so the new update we'd like to talk about today is an update to the decommissioning tool. It's a decommissioning action called unsuspend user. And so what this is one of the actions that's available to gPanel standard users because gPanel standard offers the decommissioning module. And it's an action where you can unsuspend a user at a later time. So just as an example, I'm going to quickly just switch over to gPanel just to illustrate what I'm talking about. This would be located under Tools and Decommissioning. The action is called Unsuspended User here. If it's not on this section, it'll be on this list here under Available Actions. So if your trigger is currently set to user suspension, this gives you the option to unsuspend the user at a later time. And you may want to do this in order to run actions on the user that you can't do when they are suspended. So it gives you one extra tool. And if you have any follow-up questions on that, just let us know and we can go get back into it. But today we're actually mainly talking about reporting. So in the reporting section, you'll find the reporting information in our gPanel knowledge base under the reporting. And there you'll find instructions and more information on creating reports, editing reports, and a list of each report and each of the report options. Today, we're going to be going over two reports which are located in gPanel Starter. They're going to be the email delegate report and third-party applications report. And then we're also going to go over two reports that are located in the report section of gPanel Standard and Enterprise. And that's going to be the abandoned calendar events report and the docs shared externally report. But before we get into the reports, I'd like to talk a little bit about the differences between the two tiers, our gPanel starter and standard tier, and how it affects the reporting. So on the next slide, we are showing the 12 reports that are included with gPanel starter. So these are the 12 reports available, and no others. Any additional reports that will be created for gPanel Standard and Enterprise. But these reports we have here, we're going to go over two of them, like I mentioned before, and you'll see that they're actually all very useful. But when you upgrade to gPanel Standard and or Enterprise, you have access to over 70 reports, including the ones that were in gPanel Starter. So here's a list of all of the reports. We only have time to go over a few of these today, but if you have questions on any of the other ones, just feel free to ask, and we'll see if we can get you a brief breakdown and answer your question there. With that being said, I'm going to switch over here. We're going to get started on gPanel Starter, and we'll go over the reports that I just mentioned before. Let me switch my screen over. All right. So the reports I'd like to talk about in gPanel Starter are located in the reports section, which is gPanel reports. And then when you're on the reporting page, you'll see a list of your current reports here. I've already built a few. If you'd like to build a brand new report, you can hit the add button here. If you'd like to just run a report that you've had already created, you can just highlight it, then click run now to the side, or you can edit it too. But for this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and create the report from scratch. I'm going to go ahead and take you through the report creation sequence here. We'll repeat it a few times, but for any of you that are new, here is how you create a report. You always start with the report name. You can name it whatever you'd like. In this case, I'll just name it what the report's going to be. We're going to be running an email delegate report. All right. And once again, these are the list of available reports that I have in gPanel Starter, and email delegate is located right here. Optionally, you can include a description if you'd like. You have the options to run it manually or not, or you can set it on a schedule. And if I flip this to schedule, we'll have an extra scheduling section appear here. All right. So on the next page, we're going to go ahead and head over to the next page. This is the destination folder section. In this area, if you wanted to select a specific file, I'm sorry, a specific folder where you wanted to keep this file, you would hit select file, and you can choose a folder that you have in your drive structure to put it in. But this is actually optional, and I'm just going to skip it for this demonstration. But that's what it does. But you can go ahead and hit next and skip over it. And in the columns section here, these are the options that you have for this report. In this case, the report only has two options, user email and the delegate. And when you select them, they will move over to the right, and that means that's what is selected. So you can do them one at a time, or you can move everything at once. So I've selected both options. I'm going to hit next. Now for the source, this is the scope of my report. In this case, I can choose to run it on a single user, a group of people, an OU, or the whole domain. Oh, sorry. Let me put it on browse so you can actually see the differences here. In this case, I'm just going to choose a single user so the information isn't too confusing. I'm going to scroll down and select my own user, but you can once again select multiple users if you'd like, but I'm just going to select my own for this example. This next screen, email notification screen, you can choose to send an email to another user or yourself upon completion or upon completion of the report. And I'm just going to add myself here. So I'll get an email notification as soon as this is run. The next section here, I can add somebody to share the report to immediately. This would be sharing them sharing them to the spreadsheet automatically when the spreadsheet is created. In this case, I'm going to select my friend Phil. And we're going to hit next. Since I chose schedule in the very beginning, I do have the option to run this report on a set schedule. And so I can run it on different days of the week. And then I can select the time, and I can actually add in several time slots if I want to run it several times during the day. Or I can run it certain days of the month. or I can run it monthly. And if I choose to run it monthly, it runs on the first day of the month. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click next there. On the last page, you have the chance to review the report. You have a few options up top. The first one is to run the report immediately after saving. I usually click yes, and when you do that, after you've hit submit, you'll see a pop-up window with the ability to launch the report. Now I can retain the report's original name, which is called email delegate report if I hit yes, or if I wanted to use the custom name that I've built, I would just keep it on no. Auto share the report with notified users. So I can or can't just by sliding that over. And then here is just like a breakdown of the options that I've chosen in the report. From the name, I did not put in a description. The the report type and then these columns are pretty important, which columns I've selected, and then schedule and everything else. When after I'm happy with reviewing it, I'm going to go ahead and submit. If I wait a second, since I chose to run the report manually, this pop-up appears, and if I click here, it will automatically launch the report. Depending on the size, depending on the size and scope of your report, it may take a little while to run it, but in this case, it was really quickly. It ran really quickly. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my findings here. So in this case, you can see that the user email is me. Oops. What this report is telling us is that Phil Schnee is delegated to my account. And actually, I ran one earlier with more than just me. I ran it on the entire domain and I have it here. So we have a little bit more. You can see that not only is Phil Schnee delegated to my account, but since I ran it on the whole domain previously, it shows you everybody else who has delegates on their email inbox. And in this case, this admin email actually has 3 different delegates. It's got Phil, myself, and Aaron, all delegated to one email, one inbox. That kind of gives you a better kind of description on a better way to look at it. This report is useful in that it gives you the ability to quickly see who is delegated to which user is delegated to another user's inbox at a glance, and that could be very helpful. That's the email delegate report. The next report I'd like to demonstrate here in gPanel Starter is the third-party apps report. And so this is useful if you'd like to know which apps your users have logged into using their workspace credentials. And that would be if they go to an app such as Dropbox and they choose sign in with Google, that gets recorded and you can find that report here in the report section. So back in the report section, I'm going to add the report and I just call it third party apps. And this one is literally called third party applications. I'm going to once again skip the description. I'll put it on manual run, but I'm going to skip the schedule. I just want to run the current reporting. Once again, I'll skip the destination folder. I typically do unless I want to save it to a specific folder. Available columns. So the available columns for this report are username, the application name, really important, and the permission that is the application is granting. So I'd like to just add all of those. Go ahead and hit next. And for the sources, you are actually locked in for your whole domain. You can't choose anything else for this particular report, but that's okay. That's actually what I want to see. I want to choose my entire domain. And if you had secondary domains here, you'd have the option to choose those as well, but I just don't. We'll go ahead and hit next. And email notifications, I'm going to skip this for now. It's just optional. And sharing, as before, you can add somebody there to share the file with, but I am going to skip that as well. It's also optional. In the review section, I'm going to run this report immediately after saving. This time I will retain the report name just to see the difference. And then here's a breakdown of the options that I chose earlier. And when I submit this, what's nice is when I go ahead and open it up, Now, this might take a little while to open up, so I've already ran it earlier. Let me give it a second. Yeah, it may take a few minutes, and that's okay. If your reports are taking a little while to populate, you can actually just let them run in the background. Don't close the report or else it will stop. But if you just let it run in the background, you can move to any other section and the report will continue to, oh, there we go. The report will continue to run and you'll know that it's finished when you scroll all the way to the bottom and it'll say completed here, give you a date and time and maybe some additional data sometimes depending on the report. But as you can see here, um, what this report does is it gives you a breakdown of your users and the application that they have, the third party application that they've logged into, and the permission that application is granting. In this case, gPanel, it needed user profile permissions, user info, OpenID, and so forth. This person also logged in to their Android device, Google Chrome. This particular person did not log into anything. So it's a very good way to give you an overall look at what your users are logged into. And that is actually it uh, for this report. There's not too much to it, but it is very useful. And so for now, I'm going to switch over and continue on a couple of reports that you have access to with gPanel standard. Okay, so I'm back in gPanel standard. Let me start from the beginning. And so the reports I'm going to go over for gPanel standard. Oh, let me really quickly just check if we had any questions on that part of it. Or we could probably also save the questions till the end as well. Either way. But okay, so we'll continue on to gPanel standard reports. And the reports we're going to talk about today are the abandoned calendar events report and the docs shared externally report. And so these two reports are located in the report section, and they each have like an additional thing you can do, which I'll talk about too. But the abandoned calendar report, what it does is when you're offboarding a user, if they have any future, perhaps recurring events on their calendar, and those events are perhaps tying up resources that you have, calendar resources, or it's tying up other people that are guests on that event, and, and you want to simply just locate all of those abandoned calendar events, you can do that with this report. And then for step two, I'll show you what to do once you've done this. But the first step is to identify those calendar events. And so I'm going to choose abandoned calendar events. Going to go ahead and give it a name. We'll just call it that. So from here, the options are the same, manual run and set schedule. I'm going to leave set schedule alone and just do a manual run. Your next option here is the date range. So this would be if you're trying to identify a date range when a user may have been offboarded and you suspect that their calendar was not transferred to somebody else or their future events have not been wiped out. In this particular case, I had somebody from January, so I'm just going to go ahead and select here. It'll give me a drop down box with a calendar selector. I'm going to head back to, I think it was around January that they were offboarded. We're going to include this entire date range from January till today. And it will actually include anybody else in there that I'm unaware of. I'm going to go ahead and just hit next. And we're once again going to skip the destination folder unless you wanted to specify a folder for this report to live in. And here are the columns that are available. As you can see here, there are already a few default columns that are just defaulted to this report. It's the ID and the email address. So those are always on this report. The other optional options are here. I usually typically just add everything. I'd like to just typically get all of the information I can. But if it's too many columns, you can also always shorten if you'd like to just by removing whichever ones you want to remove. But for this demonstration, I'll add everything. Go on to next. Once again, I could run it on just my user, or I can run it on a group, an OU, or the whole domain. I'm going to do the whole domain, hit browse, because I don't think the domain is, I don't think the information is too big. If it is too big, the report may take a little while to run. So you may want to reduce it down to maybe just a single user if you know the user that you're targeting, or maybe the OU that they're in or the group that they're in. But in this case, I'll run it on everybody. We'll hit next, and I'm going to skip the notification. I'm going to skip the sharing, going to head to the review, flip this over to yes, just so that it runs immediately. I'll leave everything else the same or just review everything, make sure it's all right, then hit submit. Oops. Okay. And this should pop up in just a second. Okay, we'll launch that. And while it's thinking, you can see that the report name remained the same. I did not share anyone to this, but if I did, they would be, I think, shown there. Okay, this is actually maybe taking a little too long to complete. So I have ran it earlier today. It's right over here. So I'm gonna just switch over. So this is what it looked like when it was complete. I had 3 events. Here's the event ID, which is very important when you're perhaps troubleshooting, or it might be the event ID is what that is. Email addresses. So these are the people that are currently still on the event as guests. The original person who was deleted is no longer going to be listed here. This is the name of the event. In this case, this event right here actually had no name, no descriptions for each of these. And then the start date and time, which is very important. So you can go back and locate where these events are living. And then you can actually delete them manually, or I'll also show you how to just do this in bulk. So time zones. Oh yeah, you'll need to know the time zones when you're looking on a specific calendar. And the status, whether the guest confirmed or not. And so that's how to read this report. So additionally, once the report prints out, the second part of this, even though we're talking about reports today, the way this is useful is if you had, say, a number of calendar events that at this point, the original user is no longer available and you simply want to wipe those reports, you can actually, once you've run the report, you can actually use gPanel's bulk operations tool here. And the very first operation is the abandoned calendar events operation. The first part of it is to first run the report as we just did. And then if you were to follow this through, the rest of it would give you the ability to once once you've identified the events, it would give you the ability to actually delete the events if you follow this bulk operation through. But that's not what I'm going to cover today, but it's pretty self-explanatory. But the first step on this is always creating the report first. So that's just a little extra. Okay, so heading back to the reports section, the last report we're going to cover today is the docs shared externally report. And this report is useful to help you see where or which documents are being shared outside of your organization. And there's actually an additional report I wanted to talk about. I wanted to squeeze that in too. But this one is docs shared externally, and this would be located right down here. I'm just going to name it docs.ext. I'm going to just blast through this one pretty quickly. You can see these are the default columns, and then you have all these other options. I'm just going to add everything. Again, you can select your sources. For this report, I don't want it to be too confusing, so I'm just going to select myself because I do have a few documents that I did share externally. So I'm going to skip, and we're going to go ahead and run this, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right. While it's thinking, I actually had run it once again before, so I'm going to switch over to that now. So this is what the report looks like after I've run it. And the way you read this report is here The very first the column called external shares email address, that is who the document is shared out to outside of your domain. You can see that these particular documents are shared to these people, these users. Here is, oops, go too far. Oh, here's the actual name. Wait, no, oops. Here's the name of the person who owns the account. In this case, I didn't have a name up here, but Sam Steele is actually the name of this account. This is the role that they've been given, the type of share, and very important, the current doc owner. So you can see who is sharing this and or who in your organization is sharing externally. This is the title, creation date, so forth, to doc ID here. And this is useful if you're looking into logs and things like that. And then also one last kind of useful column here is the last time it was modified, the last modifying user here. Oh, and the MIME type, the type of file it is, whether it's a spreadsheet, a doc, an image, anything like that. Oh, and here's actually a link to the doc itself. If you wanted to view it, you can view it there. So that is actually super useful for security. If you need to look into where things were shared externally. However, one caveat is this is only for what this does is it gives you a report of what's in your user's My Drive in their Google Drive, but not in shared drives. So that's an additional report I wanted to show you because it's related to this one. So the shared drive report is actually the same report, but targeting external documents in shared drives, not My Drives. And everything's the same except it's called uh, shared drives, documents shared externally. So it's pretty self-explanatory. The setup is all the same, except now you're choosing a shared drive, or you're targeting shared drives instead. So I've already gone ahead and gone through the steps of creating it, and here's what that looks like. So I've ran it on just myself, and you can see that this is the drive. This is the shared drive. This is the name of my shared drive, and this is where the document is actually located. And here's the name of the file, the actual file that's being shared out. And here is the recipient that it's being shared to, the external recipient. Here's the drive ID if you need that, the time it was created. Again, link to the file, last modifying user, and so forth. But pretty much, if you have shared drives configured, you are interested in looking into what files are being shared externally, you would want to use both of these. But if you don't have shared drives configured, then all you need is the first one, which is oops, not that one, which is docs shared externally. But they do go hand in hand. So those are the four reports I wanted to talk about. And so if you have any questions, we'll go ahead and answer those now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark. I feel like I know gPanel, and every time we go through this, I learn a little bit more each time. It's fantastic.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure.
Yeah, so we are going to start asking some questions. We did get a few, but if there's any questions that we don't get to today or you think of later, someone can personally contact you with an answer or feel free to reach out to us with your question. You can also submit questions ahead of time. I know Brandon put one in here. Someone submitted last time. So let's get to those questions. Let's start off with some of the report names are not very intuitive. Is there a way to get a description of the report to know what the report does?
We are working on making the descriptions a little bit more descriptive. But in the
Mhm.
meantime, in the knowledge base, we have a list of all of the reports and then all of the columns within the report. So in that way, although it's not a description, it gives you a preview of what the report offers. Most of the column names are self-explanatory. But in the meantime, yes, we are working on giving a little bit more of a summary for each of the reports.
Fantastic. Yeah. If anyone hasn't checked out our knowledge base before on Promevo.com, it is extensive and great, especially for certain subjects. You can search things. I really highly recommend checking out our knowledge base. And then this is the question that we had ahead of time. Can gPanel data be transmitted out to a third party reporting tool? I think this has to do with gPanel APIs and enterprise, things like that.
Yes, I believe so. If you have gPanel Enterprise, you'd have the option to package the report and send it to your third party application of choice, like an HR application or something like that. After you've configured the API and it gives you I think it's called the key, I believe. So, yeah. Short answer, yes, you can do that.
Okay, great. And then a question on the calendars. Can you reassign an abandoned calendar to someone instead of just deleting it? I was actually wondering the same thing when we were doing it.
Oh, great question. There's not a way to do the entire calendar. Once you have the report, though, you can see events by their date and time. You can see which other users are on those dates. Let me bring it up here just to make it a bit more clear. Yeah. Once you have your report, you can identify the date and time and the other users that are still currently shared onto the calendar. So you'd be able to access their calendar in one of these guests. You'd be able to access their calendar in gPanel's calendar section. And from here, let's see, I may have already done this, but the date was the 8th and the 10th of January. So I'm going to head over to January. So I do see the events here. I have 8th. I actually have the 9th too and the 10th, but I think I was running some extra tests here. If you click on the event, you can edit it. Yeah, you can edit it. And I think I had already changed myself to the owner. You can see the organizer is up here. If the person has been deleted, it's going to actually be a long string of letters and numbers, but you can just update it with whoever you'd like here. But unfortunately, it's on an event by event basis. We don't have a way to bulk update just because of the nature of there's so many different types. They could be recurring, single, they could have different users or resources attached. So there's just not a way to do that easily, but you could do it individually here.
Okay.
Although it might be easier just to do a bulk wipe and then recreate the events individually.
Okay. Yeah. Mark, what are your favorite reports? I know you do. You're in the reports a lot. There's over 70 for like standard enterprise. What are some of your favorite ones?
Oh, yeah. The report that I did not want to go over because I think we've gone over it in the past like several times, but it's probably one of the most useful reports is the user profile report, and this is found in
Mhm.
both editions
Oh,
or
nice.
all three editions, starter, standard, and enterprise. But it's very useful because of the options that you can see here. You just have pretty much every option, including any custom, any user attributes, including custom attributes that were made in the admin console, will also appear on this report. So it's very comprehensive. So that's a report that I find myself using often for troubleshooting
Mhm.
things like that. And let's see if there's any others that come to mind. Often the groups reports is helpful, group membership, because there's not really a good breakdown that you can see all in one page in the admin console that gives you all of your groups and all of the members in groups, including nested groups. So groups that are members of other groups and the members inside of them. But the group membership report will give you all of that. So it's very
Mhm.
handy at a glance. And then since it's on a spreadsheet, you have the ability to organize the data easily.
Mhm.
So probably those two, but there's a number of others. There's so many, especially when you're in gPanel standard with all of these reports here. It really saves you the time. You don't have to build these reports in the admin console, and some of them I don't think you can build in the admin console.
Okay. And do you
Okay.
think those are the reports that clients most rely on, or are there specific ones where you get a lot of questions? Clients really rely on these specific reports. Do you have any idea about that?
Yeah, it depends on the nature of the issue, but yeah,
Hmm.
those two clients have definitely asked about those two a bunch. Email activity, and a lot of times for security, the ones that I had mentioned that we had talked about, the drive files being shared externally. So those two that I talked about for security-minded calls, those are the ones that we go to, as well as these activity shared reports. up here. So
Very nice. Well, I know we did talk about for the reports, like the emails and the gPanel API. And just so everyone knows, those are our next gPanel office hours. So if anyone's interested in learning more about those, next we have the email signatures and then the gPanel API as well. So those are coming up. So that's perfect. Drop those in there. We hope you all will check out our website for more information and join our mailing list for gPanel. Again, below you'll see all the webinars coming up. Hopefully a Google Next recap will be on our way. And our next office hour webinars will be live from Google Next, as we all will be there. So that's really exciting. But thank you all for joining us today. And thank you, Mark, again for another wonderful gPanel demo on reporting. We hope everyone has a great week, and we'll see you back here next month for our next gPanel office hours. Have
thanks
a
for
great
joining
day.
us. Thank
Thanks.
you.